A man took a deep breath, then turned and pushed his girlfriend off a 100-meter cliff. Before she could turn around, she was directly impaled by an upright stick. Seeing that the woman was undoubtedly going to die, the man quickly returned home. He lit a large fire, throwing all of the woman's belongings into it. He thought that by destroying the evidence, he could flawlessly evade legal punishment, but unexpectedly, a few drops of fresh blood dripped onto the ants below the cliff. They followed the scent of blood and soon crawled onto the woman, incessantly biting her wounds. Perhaps stimulated by adrenaline under the ants' bites, the woman miraculously came back to life. It was unclear how severe her abdominal injuries were. Still constantly vomiting fresh blood, the woman was well aware that her condition was dire. If it continued like this, she would surely die in no time, so she began to look around, trying to find a chance to save herself. After observing for a while, she realized the area was not only surrounded by mountains, but she was also impaled by branches into a hollow. With nothing around to help, the woman was in complete despair and was about to wait to die. Suddenly, through blurred vision, she saw a red lighter. Hope to survive ignited within her, so she exerted all her strength to grab it. But even a little force caused searing pain in her abdomen. To survive, she endured the pain, stretching her hand as far as possible. Through continuous effort, she grabbed the earphone despite her incessant bleeding, leaving no time to breathe. The woman quickly used the earphone to cover the lighter beside her and moved it to a position where she could reach it. Then she piled all the dry grass under the branches and used the lighter to ignite them. As the flames rose, the woman's wound burned more painfully. Realizing that she could still survive in such a desperate situation, her desire to live grew stronger. Half an hour passed, and her strong will kept her stubbornly holding on. At this moment, branches began to sway precariously under flames' attack, with the 10th about to burn off. The woman struggled continuously, then gritted her teeth and exerted force. After narrowly escaping death, the woman sighed with relief. But then she suddenly heard the roar of cars rapidly approaching. It turned out that 3 scoundrels, to avoid lingering dangers, decided to destroy the corpse without time to catch their breath. The woman hurriedly dragged her severely injured body, desperately hiding in a blind spot beneath the cliff before 3 killers discovered her, witnessing an incredible scene. The 3 killers were terrified. They never dreamed that someone could survive such a desperate situation. This was beyond their realm of understanding. One of them was so frightened that he wanted to call the police for help. Seeing his pathetic teammate, the man was so angry he was speechless. He grabbed the other's neck and firmly told him, "He must live to see the living and dead," he said, then pursued in his car. Hearing this, the woman, unable to bear her pain, dragged her severe injuries and fled quickly. When the 3 killers arrived, a pool of blood on the ground revealed the woman was severely injured and couldn't move far. They followed the blood trail, chasing her to the riverbank. The blood trail vanished here. The trio deduced the woman was nearby, so the killers chose to search separately. Unaware, this decision would haunt them forever, and at that moment. Meanwhile, the woman found a concealed cave nearby. She lit a large fire, picked up a nearby soda can, slit it open with a knife, then forcefully ripped off the bottom of the metal to lay on the ground for later use. Next, she lifted her clothing. She sterilized the knife's tip with a lighter. Her eyes were determined and fierce, resolute to survive and make the 3 scoundrels pay after getting ready. The woman directly turned the knife and aimed it at her own abdomen, then endured the pain to make a long new cut at the wound. She intended to remove the branch embedded in her stomach. Obviously, this was not enough. She continuously repeated the previous action until a cross-shaped wound formed at the injury site. Then she set down the knife, and while the branch remained unaware, quickly pulled it from her stomach. Unexpectedly, a gush of fresh blood spurted from the branch, startling the woman. If this continued, she would surely die from excessive blood loss, so she quickly placed the ripped-off metal sheet on the fire to heat it up, waiting for it to become red hot. She swiftly applied it to her abdominal wound to stop the bleeding. A strong burnt smell filled the air, and under such extreme pain, the woman fainted on the spot. When she woke up the next day, her abdominal wound had basically healed. Then she took her small knife and picked up a sniper rifle from the ground, firmly and determinedly walked out of the cave. Next was her moment of revenge. The woman first sought out the lone man. While he was not paying attention, she quietly approached him and then took him down by herself, easily eliminating the first killer. After easily handling the first killer, she ascended to the highest point and used binoculars to locate the second target. Meanwhile, a man drove toward her rapidly and realized only one person remained. Her murderous intent was clear on her face. Using rugged terrain, she silently followed the man's car. When he exited to investigate, she swiftly loaded a bullet, set up her sniper rifle behind rocks, and aimed it at his head. He pulled the trigger, but recoil was too strong, causing the gun's muzzle to tilt downward, and the bullet hit the man's shoulder. At the same time, the woman was knocked down by the strong recoil, and when she stood up, the man had already disappeared. Thinking the man had hidden in the car, she took up her sniper rifle and approached, unexpectedly discovering bloodstains on the ground from his escape. She followed the blood trail until it suddenly vanished. Panicked, the woman didn't notice the man had hidden behind her. By the time she realized something was wrong, it was already too late. The man set up the sniper rifle and aimed at her. Fortunately, the bullet hit his ear. After a struggle, the woman stood up again, and the man relentlessly pursued her from behind. The man fired several shots at the woman, but his poor aim missed. Seizing the opportunity, she shattered a glass bottle. The unguarded man stepped on it, and sharp shards instantly pierced the soles of his feet. The man was in excruciating road pain, losing his ability to fight. Unable to act, he hurried back to his car, intending to run over the woman. Meanwhile, she had already set up a sniper rifle. The deaths of 2 friends in a row had deeply terrified the last scoundrel. He was now scared out of his wits, so he hurried back to his villa, deciding to hide and wait for rescue. However, he didn't know that the woman had waited here long,